Hello, everyone, and welcome to another VSM Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Krakowski, joined by Goran Vazovic.
Hello, how's it going?
Very good, thank you. And we also have in the studio today, Matt Wagner.
Howdy.
For those of you who don't know Matt yet, you probably haven't listened to one of the more recent Monday Motivations, where he was a guest bringing the topic, delivering it, crushing it, sharing all kinds of insight.
Thank you. It's too
Must
much,
listen to it. Yes.
Not only that, but he is also the Leasing Director at VSM Real Estate, making sure that all of the properties are up to the level that they need to be.
I feel so important.
You are. Making sure that the tenants are, moving in, everything's running smoothly, and the whole leasing process, working with me, working with operations, just creating a seamless transition for everyone. But
what makes him even more interesting is...
I've always liked real estate since I was 8 or 9 years old.
So modest. How many units does he own?
16.
I have 16 units in South Minneapolis, one in Highland.
Oh, what a crappy area.
Yeah. So when you initially started, let's take it from the beginning, before even you got associated with VSM, and take it logically through that. But how did you start in real estate? How did that happen?
I don't know how to begin. Real estate has been in my life so long now, probably I'm 34, so 24 years.
Wow.
Because when I was a little kid, I just liked old houses. And my dad lived in several different houses in the kind of the west end area of St. Paul, like Crocus Hill, Highland, Mac Groveland, and they were all different style houses, Tudor, Victorian, Cape Cod. So I learned all these things about these houses because I lived in all these different houses as a kid. And then I got really interested in them, and I used to read like the prestigious property in the paper. This was before the internet, We're talking, the early 90s and the late 80s. And my dad would take me to open houses because I just like to go around these houses, and you're so little when you're 8 or 9 years old, so it's more exciting because the houses seem even bigger, especially when they're big houses. So that's where I kind of started my love of real estate, and then he fixed up a lot of the houses that he bought, so then I was introduced to that.
Okay.
Were you around? I'm sure. Was he doing a lot of the work himself, or did he do a combo of himself and hire other contractors?
Yeah, it was a combination of himself and other contractors. I guess the first time
Were you pushing the broom at some point?
Yeah, I started with just repainting my own bedroom. And I thought that was really cool, and the results,
What color did you go? It's
gray.
Okay.
Gray.
That's
a good.
That's actually a lot like the VSM color. Yeah.
That's a tasteful choice for a 9-year-old, 10-year-old?
Yeah, I would take apart all the hardware, all the hinges and stuff, dip them in stripper, and put them all back on so there wouldn't be any paint on them. And I'd, repaint the windows in oil base white, and I did a really nice job.
Wow.
On all the blinds and stuff. So that was my first project, was my bedroom as a kid.
I'm amazed you didn't paint dinosaurs, race cars, all the other stuff that you'd think a little kid would do.
No, back in one of my first rooms when I was 7, my dad put the baseball wallpaper up with a border, so I did have that.
Okay, nice. Did he force you? Were you up there with a perforator, taking it down years later and repainting it?
No, he had sold that house by that time, but it did look better than what it was before. So.
Yeah. So you started going around. Your dad, did he sort of bring you into the business to help teach you it? Was that a mentorship?
No, he had no intention of me being in real estate. He's an accountant, and he thought that's a very practical career. You should really be an accountant or work at a company.
Yeah.
But I always liked real estate. And so then years later, I started getting corporate jobs and stuff, and I did well at them, and I excelled. But I quit them, and I tried different things, and some of them were in the real estate industry, just a different side, like title and banking and whatnot. But I really liked leasing out the houses and redoing the houses and doing all that. That's what I really liked. So my father and I partnered because he knew I was good at it and knew I knew a lot and I could be the face of it. So when the economy, went down, we started buying properties and remodeling them and leasing them out. And then I also did some rehabs and resells. So we've been kind of a father-son team. But he's a CPA, so he's good with the money and all that on that side. But I'm also, conservative. I know how to spend the money right to get the good tenants and, to get the bang for the buck. And so I would find all the contractors and run the whole project and do, lease out to tenants, do all that. And then he would just be in the back of it all, behind the curtain.
How did your partnership form? How did you guys make that work, and how did you approach that with him?
I just said, Dad, this is a great time to buy real estate. People need to rent houses, and the economy is down, and the prices were incredible, and it was, it just seemed like a no-brainer. So I had a real estate license. I've had that for 10 years, so I was able to go into any property that I wanted to, and I would just go around. It was a good way for me and my father to bond too. We'd go get a beer after looking at real estate and stuff like that. So it was all feel good all around. I mean, we bought properties for incredible deals.
What year was this? Sorry.
Started in 2008.
Okay.
Buying, they were foreclosures, but, good areas. And I've seen this city really develop since I was a kid, too, and that's been really fun because, I remember it from the late 80s and early 90s. I remember streets that were all boarded up when there wasn't as many brew houses and restaurants, and you could buy a house on Summit Avenue for $250,000. Lots of houses were, $55,000, $75,000. Not on foreclosure when I was a kid. So I remember all those days, and the city has gotten so much better and the population has grown. So it's just been incredible to see since I was a young boy.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you a question as far as when you have 16 units, and is it a combo of single families, duplexes, condos, or?
I have 2 fourplexes. I have 3 duplexes, a townhouse, and a condo, and they're all kind of along Hiawatha, so it's really good transportation, and there's a lot to do in those areas.
Matt and I are duplex and fourplex neighbors too.
Yes, we are. We're neighbors. Dan and I live on the same street.
We do.
Yes.
So what was your was multifamily one of your criteria when you selected? What do you look for?
A lot of times I like practical and really good buildings. I genuinely like, true duplexes and true fourplexes. I love estates. I like things that haven't been touched very much, or properties where maybe the people were dirty, but they didn't do anything to the property, so at least it was easy. I like to bring it back to its form. I kind of work with the bones that the property offers. If it's a craftsman, I try to kind of leave it like that. And I'm more of a cleaner. I clean the properties up nice for, a rental grade. So they already have a lot of the nice woodwork and stuff like that people like. And then I redo the floors, and I just kind of let the property speak for itself when it was built. When it was built is a lot of times, the best use that it is. So
when you first started, I know your dad's an accountant, so I'm sure he was pretty talented with a spreadsheet. How did you analyze these deals, and where did you get the education to do that?
Honestly, me and my dad, after we'd look at the properties, we would go to a bar and we would bring our paper with us, and we would write down all the expenses that we thought. Because I would do an estimate because I had experience working with people and kind of what the cost of things were that needed to be done, and so we would estimate those costs, but be conservative, like make them higher, and then also build in a contingency cost for anything unforeseen, because that always happens. So you build that in, like, if this doesn't happen, great, then, we can pocket the contingency. But if it does, then we've planned for it. So.
Yeah, very smart. So did you ever formalize that, or is that kind of how you still analyze properties?
Yeah, it is kind of still how I analyze properties. I just kind of analyze the expenses. But, I joined VSM here, and they have a lot of new ways that they, figure out the different expenses and stuff. So I definitely want to learn more about that. I think that that's really great. But, yeah, I just kind of crunched the numbers and kind of estimated the cost. And then, then I'd start the project. Usually, the electricians and the plumbers come in first, do that type of thing. And, then I would just kind of schedule everything out and be in close communication and on the project.
I mean, we have a lot of, the spreadsheets and the technical and the numbers, but what you don't get is kind of the experience, which, we encourage everybody to send us real estate deals that they find or to other investors. And what I've noticed, the deals that Matt sends over, they're, he doesn't send very many, but everyone that he sends, they're the right deal. So you can kind of see where, someone has the experience and they look beyond the numbers because they already did it. And you can see, okay, that's a solid one.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I kind of know what properties people like and stuff. And yeah, I mean, if they're properties that have a lot of character and they're true and they're, people really like that stuff. They really do. It's very valuable. And the location is a big deal. And then I like properties that, as far as a multifamily, I like properties that can be either resold to an investor or resold to somebody that wants to own or occupy them. I feel like most of my multifamilies could go either way. So I feel like they're a little bit more liquid than some property that's always just going to be an investment property. Like it's not going to be a property that somebody really wants to have as an owner-occupied property. I like, my fourplexes. I live in one of my fourplexes, and it's very nice. Yeah. And I enjoy living in it. It's owner-occupied. So somebody else could like that, or somebody could just want to buy it to rent it out.
Right. Yeah, and I lived in a duplex myself at one point in time. You, Daniel, live in a duplex right now.
I'm planning on living in multifamily for a long time.
Right, and I live in a condo right now. I enjoy having neighbors, but I'm not a big single family home type of guy. So, but I totally understand it. Plus, when it comes to real estate investing, the efficiency factor. If you
live there, then you can.
Right.
You're right on site.
a fourplex where you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this as my first investment. I'm going to live in one. I'm going to repair the other three, and then I'm going to move tenants in. And you're going to have your eye on it all the time. So I think it's a very
convenient.
The convenience is a really good jumping off point for future deals and other real estate that you own. That you're not going to necessarily live in, but 4 units, that's a big deal versus just having one house and you have to drive to that house to fix it, rent it, maintain it, whatever. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure why a lot of people even shy away from a multifamily.
Well, they think they're going to have to deal with the tenants, but, here at VSM, we can help them with that because there's ways to find, good tenants. There's a process for it and everything, and so that's why VSM is here too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Very true.
Yeah.
So you started buying in 2008. Are you still buying? Do you guys still actively look for deals?
The last property I bought was in December. I bought a condominium by Diamond Lake.
So
I wanted to diversify.
2016 December?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted to diversify just a little bit because most of my properties are a little further north, and so I thought, well, I'll buy this condo because I don't have to. There's none of the exterior or anything, and it's in a great area, but it's still not too far, But it's in a different neighborhood, so I decided to pick that one up.
Yeah.
What were some of the when you were starting out, and when was the first one that you acquired? Like, do you remember how old you were? How many years ago?
Yes. When I was 20 years old, I bought my first house in Longfellow. It was 620 square feet above ground, 1 bedroom. And I bought it because it was really, it was a cute little house. But it was really close to campus. So I had a house and it was close to campus. It was a great neighborhood, 2 blocks north of Lake by Brackett Field, kind of in that little area there, kind of on the edge of Longfellow Seward. And actually, when I moved out of that house, I bought my big Victorian mansion on Park Avenue, and I rented the house to this couple, and then they ended up buying it from me 7 years later after renting it because they loved it. So I sold that to them, and then I I moved into this big Victorian, which is now an AA house.
When you bought your first property and then, buying your second and third, did you find it to be kind of a bigger time span between your first, second, and third than it was between the fifth, sixth, seventh? And did that speed up? Did the process speed up as you kind of got better, after your first few?
I've been kind of consistently buying maybe 1 to 2 a year. I like to get the projects really good and finished. I like to get, them all occupied and everything before I go to the next one, because I like to spend all my energy in one place.
Was that a goal that you set for yourself, the 1 or 2, or did it just work out like that?
It really just worked out like that. And then some of them were rehab and resells too. So, I also bought properties and sold them too. Mostly they were the single family ones that I picked up. So
what would you say was kind of the biggest challenge? And obviously here, with VSM, there's, so many people that help with various aspects of, renting, leasing, brokering, whatever, you being, essentially a one-man show or band or whatnot. What were some challenges that you faced, scaling up and then also managing the portfolio as it grew?
Well, there was always time constraints because I also had a full-time job. So I was doing this stuff all on the side. I was really lucky that when I found people, because when the recession hit, a lot of contractors did not have jobs. So I had them at my disposal, and I would use this website called Service Magic, which is now Home Advisor. And
that's right.
They had really well qualified people on there, and I would get just a ton of bids, and I would get the prices that I would want, maybe sometimes under what I estimated. And then I built these good relationships, but those guys really needed jobs at that time, so that was another feel good. I gave people jobs that needed jobs. Now contractors are very busy, so I'm very lucky that I still have the contacts I did.
Yeah,
and they're always in my life because they know that when I hire them, I need what I need, and it's like, it makes sense, and I pay them right on time. And so we've always had a really good relationship. So I still use those people now, but they might not be taking on new clients now because they're so busy. So I was just kind of lucky. I met really good people. I have really good contractors. But yeah, it's challenging. I've been always busy, but I've made my mistakes. But overall, I think I've done a pretty good job running it. So
yeah. What gave you the confidence to purchase homes when, it seems obvious now in hindsight, right? When you look back at any market, and I think it makes sense to us who tend to have more of an investment mindset, but generally if the market's tanking, everyone still wants to sell. And when it's going really well like it is right now, everyone wants to buy.
Well, I think we've also been very lucky with the city. Minneapolis, the Twin Cities in general, they've always been pretty stable. They've had good economy, good industry, lots of companies. It's a clean city. It's pretty well run. I guess if you were talking about another city in the Rust Belt, it might not be very good to ever invest.
Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, because, but here there's always a need for housing. Everybody has to live in a house.
Shout out to Gary.
Shout out to Gary, Indiana.
Sorry.
Don't kill me.
You either have to rent, or you have to purchase a house, or you can do what's called shacking up. That means that you're moving in with your family or something like that. And a lot of people were doing that when the economy was low, and it did bring down the rental market for a brief period because people were living together. But, you're always going to need a roof over your head. It's very practical.
Yeah.
If I have a roof over, and it's a nice property, somebody's going to want to live in it, so if the rental market goes bad, maybe people are buying, it's either way.
Right.
So you had a full-time job, you had a side hustle as far as real estate goes and building your empire, what, if any, but I'm assuming you had to have kind of financial difficulties to make all of that work? I know you mentioned the time, but again, I know how hard it was for us to build our portfolio in the beginning, and a lot of it had to do with financial difficulties, and especially maybe in 2009 to 2012 or so, it was tough to get financing, and even though the deal was there, you still had to get a bank or a hard money person or whoever, friends and family, to believe in you and invest with you. So what were some financial difficulties that you've had, and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, I was pretty lucky. I'm not a big spender, so I've always been pretty good at saving money. And then my father, he has money too, so we both had cash, and the properties were so cheap. So they were like, I bought one property back then for, $28,000. Who can't,
Okay,
we had $28,000. And so then what I would do.
Can you describe a $28,000 property? Because that, I think to most people in this market, that doesn't even make sense to them.
Right.
Yeah, I did. It was actually a rehab. I bought this adorable little 595 square foot home on 1540 Eigelhart. It's just right by Snelling and Eigelhart.
Yep.
And it was a nice 20s house. And they actually had made it into a 2-bedroom. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. It's a very nice 1-bedroom house. So I tore down the wall, made it into a nice living room. And, we probably spent like $25,000 on the home, and then I sold it for $97,000. And so with the rehab,
how long?
What's that?
How can you give us more of a timeline as far as you bought it for 28?
Yeah, I bought it in
25. How long, did you hold the property, I guess?
Most of my rehabs were 3 months. Holding until sell.
So that was a nice return on your investment right there.
Right, and then you have cash to buy more properties, and then my dad had cash, so we bought them together for cash, and a lot of them you could not buy finance because they weren't in good enough shape. The water wasn't on and everything. So
and
we
banks
had
were
a really
in trouble at that time too.
Yeah, we had a great advantage going on. So it was like, hey, let's get into this and buy these things for cash. Other people that wanted to finance them, they couldn't buy them, so we bought them. Cash. Yeah, it's done. The bank wants to be done with it. So it was very quick closing, and then we'd fix it up.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's some of the craziest stuff you saw looking at foreclosed houses in the $20,000 price range back in 2008?
Well, I went into this one property on Portland and Lake, and it was a cool Victorian house, but it was split up into different units. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to see if the unit had hardwood floors, and it had carpet at the time. So I saw in a corner that the carpet was kind of pulled up, and so I was like, I can pull up that corner and see if there's hardwood floors. So I pulled up the carpet, and there were probably 7 hypodermic needles. That's where we put their needles underneath the carpet. So that was probably the most random thing. Yeah. So.
Oh my God!
Wow. And I've run into vagrants. Back in those days.
Just squatting in. Yeah.
Yep. I've run into no copper. All kinds.
Yeah, that was
of
a big deal. The copper. I'm glad they eased up on that.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that for a while, but that was a huge problem. They were taking all the car, and then of course, those could never be approved for financing. So I did buy a couple of those, and then you had to put the plumbing in. So.
Huh. Yeah, that's the copper. I remember the copper stories where, they do like $7,000 worth of damage for $50 worth of copper.
Well, people were so desperate for money back then during the recession. So, it was a way for people to get money that didn't have a job and just break into houses and steal copper and make money off it.
Jeez.
What would Grant Cardone say about that? He'd either love it or hate it. I guess I don't know. But
well, if it was his property, he'd probably hate it.
Yeah. Very true. Okay, so you purchased a bunch of properties with your dad. You're still continuing to do that now. How did you get in contact with us? What was that transition into making real estate kind of your side hustle to your full-time commitment?
Well, my properties just started to do better. I was able to continue to raise the rents as, the economy did better and Minneapolis was doing better. And, the properties were worth a lot more than I bought them for. So I'm in a really good equity position, probably 50%, maybe, if that. Wow. So then I was able to relax a little from, I have to do this career. I'm like, well, I have my own career that I built with these 16 units and I'm making income from that. So if I don't make, a ton of money starting out in real estate, at least let's start it and bring myself to that point, because I have so much knowledge and so much to offer people that work with me. And I felt like that's, so, it was always in the back of my mind. So I was like, this is my chance. And Ryan met me on LinkedIn. And he just wanted to meet up with me because he saw my resume and whatnot and thought it'd be a good fit for VSM.
Shout out LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. So we met at one of my rehabs that I was doing down on West 7th, and we had lunch and we stayed in touch. And I always knew that I was going to do something with VSM, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And everything worked out, and now here I am. Couldn't be happier.
And us as well. I think that, from my perspective, I see a very significant positive change, not just in, our leasing side of things, but, company as a whole, just because of all the lifetime worth of knowledge that you bring in and people can ask questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, they don't have to just maybe go to us, Ryan and myself or Daniel. They can go to you as well. So it's a great resource for the company and everybody here. And of course, our owners and customers, tenants, and everybody else.
What I love going to Matt for is like, hey, here's a question that I have, and it's going to be a real estate question, but it also has to do with maintenance, and it also has to do with the city. And if I wanted to get answers, I'd have to talk to 3 different people, try and be like, this person told me this, is that right? But you've gone through it, and you forgive me if this characterization seems inaccurate, but it sounds like you just you weren't shown the path. You just kind of forged it and just figured it out. So you kind of went through a little bit more trial and error, I think, than most people, is kind of what it sounds like.
Learn by doing. Yeah. Also, inspectors aren't always very consistent, and I've just learned that. So but try to be on their good side. That's what I say.
Nonetheless, you take all these complicated issues and you can create kind of a central answer of the best way to move forward from experience. And very few people really offer that, I think, and especially when you're dealing with a larger corporation, the bigger the corporation gets, the more that there's a division of labor, and the less that other people know about the other branches of what the business does. So if you're dealing with a giant investment firm, they're gonna be like, hold on, let me transfer you to this person, and you just keep getting moved around. Matt really has all the answers. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I kind of enjoy it. I'm kind of taking, I didn't start at VSM that long ago. I've only been here for maybe a month. But it's just interesting trying to take, since I do it all for the properties that I have, breaking it out to the different departments and seeing how we can be, the most efficient in, taking it from doing it all to dividing it into different departments. So I'm kind of enjoying that, and I'm kind of excited to kind of contribute in my thoughts.
Another thing that I want to kind of add on to, and more kudos to you, is that even though things may not be simple, you make them simple when it comes to just, I guess, really anything and everything real estate, from condition of property to whether or not a tenant is going to be a good fit, where most everybody else that I know or from the past, they would make it just overcomplicated. There would be just I would feel overwhelmed to make an informed decision. As if I was a owner, you kind of simplify it and say, hey, here are your options. This is the best one. And this is why it would work, to your advantage, and it's easy. And that's what I think, I appreciate that a lot, and I think a lot of our owners do too. And again, it goes from that experience where you can kind of say, hey, this is the reason why, because I've had this happen, or I know about it. So,
Well, thanks, guys. I'm still learning things every day, though, and so just to be clear on that, there's always something new to learn in real estate because things are always changing. So I always leave myself open to that for sure.
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the right attitude to have too, especially when you're doing property management too.
Yes.
Right. There's a lot of variables
It's
that
a
get thrown.
Well, as you guys might know, a purchase agreement used to be 2 pages, like 30 years ago. So
So did our management agreement. and
Learn through error, trial and error, yeah.
And our lease used to be very simplistic, and the statutory forms that the state of Minnesota provided, that's how we started. But then after a couple of years, you add a sheet, you add another sheet, you add another sheet, and then by the end of the whole thing's like 17, 20 pages, and you're like, whoa.
all to protect yourself, CYA, right?
Right. It's protecting yourself, but then it's protecting, it's
everything.
Everyone is being protected by that piece of paper, and everyone's interest is being protected by that. It's
right,
not just
enforcing all
one-sided.
sides.
Exactly.
Gone are the days of being able to write a dollar amount, a date, and the clause, hey, let's all just be cool, man. And that's good enough.
Those were the days.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And when I started too, and I'm sure you can maybe agree with me, is that a couple of the leases that I did for myself, for my own properties, were like, yeah, you seem good. Handshake, pay me rent on this date, see you later.
Yeah.
But then you learn, and you grow, and, you develop a better process, and it works.
You just have to continue to have a good attitude about it. Sometimes it's hard, but you just keep on doing it.
Awesome.
Very true. So, okay, so you're at VSM now, you're killing the game, you're revolutionizing the way that we do our leasing.
That's true.
Continuing to invest. Are you going to be working with all of our investors as well? Is that something that you have some experience? Have you worked with other people on finding these types of deals?
I have. Yes, I have. I've worked with, I have a real estate license too. And originally I kind of got it to, buy the rehabs and whatnot so I could, have the commission.
The commish.
Exactly. Why not reinvest that into the repairs you're going to do in the property? But people found out that about what I did that knew me. And so I ended up representing quite a few clients because I can help them. I know a lot about houses and systems and stuff, and it was a really good fit. So I still work with clients to find houses. But
when you work with an investor, do you always go to a bar after and get beers and do all your notes there? Because that seems like a pretty good preposition.
I like clients like that.
That would be a good kind of a tagline. After we're done, signing the contract, let's go grab.
Unless they're
beers.
AA, then we'll have coffee or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's very good to keep in mind. So one last thing that I want to ask you, just out of curiosity, because you've been, you took these properties and were renting them from 2008 when, to me, the whole world was upside down, right? Is that fair enough
right.
to say? What difference have you seen in renters from then to now? And do you have any good stories about any tenants? You can omit names, but any crazy experiences that you had as a landlord?
Yes, I have had some experiences as a landlord. I can say that. I guess what I've noticed the change is that we have a lot younger generation now. It's making me feel old. I'm in my 30s, and now these people are coming to look at my
Do you think we're all
houses
just
that
older
are
now?
12 years younger than me, and I'm like, wow, they were born in the 90s, and they're looking to rent a place now. So I've seen that. I've had some interesting tenants, mostly ones that I've acquired. There was a house on West 7th that I redid, and the guy was a severe alcoholic and smoked a lot, and he had lived in the house since '89, so it was like 25 years of smoke and drinking and his motorcycle people.
He took pretty good care of it, right?
Well, he didn't do anything to it, but that's the problem. It was like so filthy, and so every time I went there to show my contractors, he would follow us around very drunk, and and then he slept in the neighbor's yard the night after I purchased it. So I saw him sleeping on the swing.
And then I hope that guy doesn't live.
Yeah, the neighbors were nice to him and let him sleep in the yard. And then he eventually went to a wet house for supervised drinking. So I felt really bad, but it was probably the best place he could have been. I had an interesting tenant in my fourplex too when I acquired it, and she was interesting. Her name was Jennifer, transgendered, and she lived up in the upstairs, and she was one of those people where she was kind of messy, didn't always pay the rent on time. But I remember this one time, Jennifer was out in the back with her high wedges and her cut-off jeans and everything, and I was redoing the landscaping on the property, and so it was really muddy in the back, and I was using the hose to water the grass seed, and I was there with a friend that was helping me do the landscaping. But Jennifer said, "Oh, I could put the hose away," and she had her big wedges on. This is a big 50-year-old, transgendered person, nice person, but you didn't want them to help you with anything. So he ended up, I asked my friend to put the hose away. So Jennifer says, "No, I could do it," and it's all muddy.
Yeah.
And so she goes into the mud with her wedges and falls in the mud. And it was kind of funny. I felt really bad, but she fell in the mud. And I just told her, "You don't have to turn off the hose." So that was really interesting. But she found out. And she was always sunbathing when I'd come home from the boat with her cut off jeans, and so it was very, very interesting. Meet all kinds of people, all walks, renting things out. Jennifer doesn't live there anymore, but we've redone the unit, and
that's one thing that I don't know. I think I appreciate, and even if you don't travel anywhere outside of, let's say, the Twin Cities of Minnesota or even the country, being in this business and renting to anybody and everybody is kind of, I think, the fun in this industry.
It is. It makes life interesting, and you see a lot of different things out there, and you're like, "Wow, I've never met a person like this," but now I've met them all. I've met a lot of people.
I think the same goes for us too. We've gone through everything that you can imagine. It's crazy. So it's cool. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for all the fun stories, Matt.
Yeah.
We really look forward to having you on future podcasts, future Monday Motivations, and just seeing you continue to change the way that we do business for the better.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.